get up here with me, but I'm giving him personal.
I'm not sure I really want to say anything, but you know, the experience I've had over the last couple of days here, I'm absolutely blown away by what these good men have put together. And Manny, I was trying to figure out, since I looked at those films today, especially the one with the children, that one really hit me hard. And I'm just trying to think of something that I would say that would be the right thing to say to you. So I'm going to come up with a scripture. It's John 15:13. You know what that is? Who knows what it is? Greater love hath no man than to give up his life for his friends. Now, we're not asked to die for our friends, but you and all your friends are living your life for your friends. And that, to me, hands down, is the greatest thing yet. Now, my wife is going to tell you about 10,000 beds, but how many husbands do we have out here?
Yeah!
Okay. Now wait a minute. Now, husbands, I'm not talking about. Let's take the world of addiction and the world of recovery out of this question. Do you know what your wife's passions are?
Yes.
It might be who knows what. How hard is it for you to get behind their passions where they're behind your passions? Sometimes it doesn't always work. I was trying to figure out how I was going to wrap my head around my wife's passion. And that's recovery.
Amen.
And the way I came up with that was real simple. My father's alcoholic. My father was alcoholic. My grandfather was alcoholic. And my great-grandfather was alcoholic. I'm not. I was blessed enough to find my faith in my 20s. So I didn't fall into that trap. But there was a time when my father and I, we didn't get along so well. We fought a lot and we went through a lot of pain together. But in my 30s, I went to visit and I saw him once again just bad-mouthing my mom to death. And she was a great lady. And I just stood up, and at that point I'm a lot bigger than my dad. And I said, don't you ever talk to my mom like that again. And I watched his fists go like this, both of them at the same time. I realized my fists were doing exactly the same thing. Now, he's a Golden Gloves champion, but I've been in martial arts for a long time. I was ready. And he just looked at me and he said, you'd just like to hit me right now, wouldn't you? And all of a sudden I felt my hands soften, my voice drop. I said, no, Dad, I'd like to hug you, but you won't let me. Wow. I have the perspective. I'm 65 years old, and I still feel like the child of an alcoholic. So I can relate. That's where my passion comes from. My wife is going to tell you about 10,000 beds and why she's doing that from a different perspective.
We're so glad to be here today. 10,000 Beds is on the road for recovery. We're pulling that big blue thing out there all over the country and living in it. In March we decided to sell our house, and we did. And we bought the RV, and that's our home. So if you drove by late last night and wondered why it was still parked out here, we were sleeping in it, or we were trying to as the trains went by. But 10,000 Beds was started because I am the mother of a son in recovery. And I know that that separates me from some of you. Some of you are grieving because you've lost a loved one who is no longer in recovery and is no longer with us. I am lucky. I'm a lucky mom. My son is still here. He's in recovery. He's almost to his 3rd year. But when I was going through what I went through with him, the thought of what 10,000 Beds might be able to do to help people who didn't have the resources that we had, not just financially, but we had some friends and family who worked in the addiction treatment industry. When it was discovered that my son was an addict, we had people we could call. Even with that, I was totally at a loss. I'm not young, I'm 62. I have had a lot of life experience, I'm fairly intelligent, and I was completely overwhelmed, completely blown away, and also completely taken in by the stories that I was being told by an addict. And I became the perfect enabling mother. So as I know that I experienced all of that, I started thinking to myself, how can we help others who are experiencing that and don't have our resources? And through that, we started working with families, trying to help them find a program that would be good for their loved one. Friends would call. And as this was happening, I was working at treatment centers and in their call centers. And if you've ever worked at a treatment center call center, and just because you're here, you understand that this is how it works. Typically, they get about 20 calls from people who have no resources. They don't have money, nobody's going to help them. And then they get one call with somebody with insurance. So they're turning away 19 to 20 people, and they're able to place one. And that, to me, was the wrong way to deal with it. But what can you do when you own a treatment program and 20 calls are coming in from people who need scholarships? The flip side was, I was visiting treatment centers, and I was learning about their programs, and when I did that, I saw that every treatment center had an empty bed. And I thought to myself, and I was literally driving down the 405 in California, and I thought to myself, we have got to bring these two things together. We have people without resources who are dying and begging for help, and we have empty beds in treatment centers. How can we do that? And oddly enough, 10,000 beds came to my mind, and I thought to myself, we can do this. We can come up with 10,000 scholarships by 2020. That's the goal I set. So from that moment on, I started asking some of my treatment center owner friends, what do you think about this idea? If I approached you and said, would you donate one scholarship a year to 10,000 beds, a nonprofit organization, would you consider that? And without fail, everyone I've ever asked has said yes. And so thus was born 10,000 beds. Our application process is very simple, but it's not easy. It's over 30 questions. So we have to vet our treatment centers. We visit every treatment center we partner with. So if you see somebody on our website, we've been there, we've met the owner, we've talked to the clients, we've also talked to staff. But we also have to vet the applicants because scholarships are valuable. And I want to give them to someone who is ready and willing to get help, number one. So we have to determine if they really are ready. So 30 questions on an application is our first vetting process. If they're not willing to complete 30 questions, they're probably not ready yet. And when they are, they'll come back and finish the application. Once that application is completed, I have turned this completely over to Hal. I was doing all of it, and it literally became too much as we started to grow. Hal is now handling all of the clients. He volunteered. He's doing an amazing job. And where I'm more of the business head, he is the one that will sit on the phone with them for an hour and a half, or however long they need. So it's actually the perfect combination. So we vet our clients, we vet our programs, and then we match clients to the best program that we have for their needs. Once a program is identified, we send the client's information to them, and that program then does their own client assessment. So these scholarships are given out based on bed availability and their client assessment after we've done a lot of pre-screening. That's how 10,000 beds works. Why do we do it? I have a son in recovery. He was in his early 30s when he decided that he needed to take on a fourth job to support his family. He had 2 young children. He was married. They had a loving, wonderful relationship, so he decided to become a bouncer at a bar. He's a 4th-degree black belt. He stands about this tall. And he went to that bar, and he was a bouncer, and he liked the lifestyle, and he liked the social atmosphere, and he got involved in it, and then he started drinking, and then he started using cocaine, and in a year, my son became an alcoholic and a cocaine addict. And he lost his family, he lost his home, he lost his job. He was living in our basement, and we did a family intervention. Once we figured out what was going on, The family intervention, I thought, failed. He was angry. We did get by the book, but he was angry. He was offended. I think he was embarrassed. And he told us, I'm not going to rehab. I'm going to do this on my own. And my son did. He got clean and sober for 6 months. And he toed the line and got a job and was putting his life back together. And then he went to the wedding of some friends that he'd been partying with prior to when he was clean and sober. And he started using again. For the next year, he used. I cannot tell you how many times he tried to take his own life. I don't know. But I do know that my older son had to pull a gun out of his hand at one time. I know that there was a time that I was looking for him, and I crawled through a lot of windows when he wouldn't answer the door to see if he was in there. That I went to his apartment building. He was not in his apartment. His truck was parked at a weird place, and there was a tent, a pup tent, suddenly that had appeared back behind the apartment building. And all I could think of was that my son was probably in there, and that out of some sort of consideration for his mother, he chose to go commit suicide in a tent away from his apartment. So I walked toward that tent, and as I did, I completely fell apart. Because that image in my mind was something I couldn't deal with. And so I called this older son who had already once removed the gun from his hand and said, Kurt, I can't do it. I literally cannot live flat on that tent. Can you please come? Kurt was 25 minutes away, and I waited, crying, sobbing hysterically the entire time. And when Kurt came, obviously, you know this already, but when he lifted the flap, Colin was not in there. I tell you that because I want you to understand the mother's viewpoint, where a mom comes from. We love our kids so much that we will do anything, which is why we become enabling. We love them to the point of hurting them. And then we're scared to death when we think we're going to lose them. I spoke with a mom today at a conference I was at earlier today, and I'm sorry I wasn't here, but I was at a conference, and this gal lost her son, and he had every reason to live, and he wanted to live. But he was able to get that last prescription, and it took his life. Moms will do anything. Colin, on the day he decided to get help, was in his room, alone. He had gone to a party the night before. He was using heavily, and he realized he literally lost everything. And he said, I woke up that morning, Mom, and I had 3 choices. I could either shoot myself, or I could shoot up and kill myself, or I could call for help. And thank God he called for help. This is an important part of this story. When I was talking to Daniel last night, I don't know how many of you met Daniel who was here last night, but I was talking to him. I told him this story, and it really affected him, and I think it's because he has a relationship with his mother, and so he could identify that Colin called for help. He called his dad. Hal and I are a combined family. Hal has been in our lives and the kids' lives for 20 years, so we're not newbies, but Colin called his dad and told him he wanted help. His dad was able to find him a rehab that would take him. Colin immediately called me and said, Mom, I'm going to rehab. Dad's booking me a flight. I have 4 hours before the flight leaves. I said, I'll be right there. I drove there. There was 15 minutes between my house and his house normally. It took a lot less time, but the whole time I was sure he wouldn't be there when I got there. Because you know, if you've been through this, you know that you make the decision to go and then you're scared and you don't go. And I was afraid that would happen. But when I got there, Colin was ready. Here's what I want you to understand about my 4th-degree black belt son that's this tall. The moment I picked him up, until he got on the plane, he never left my side. He stood right next to me. He would not get more than a foot away from me. And at first I didn't understand what was going on, but it didn't take very long for me to figure out it's because he knew better than I knew that if he stepped even 2 feet away from me, he knew he could bolt. He could just reverse his decision and leave, walk off, and I couldn't do anything about it. So that tall, big guy stood next to his mom for 4 hours. And Hal was with us. And we got him on that plane. He went to 90 days, went to sober living. He is now almost 3 years clean and sober.
Yeah.
He's put his life back together. He and his wife did get divorced, but he has a great relationship with her and with the kids. And here's the last piece about Colin. I told this story to a group like you, and Colin happened to be in the audience. It was the first time he heard me tell the story, and I had his permission to tell it. And as I finished, I said, Colin, you're in the audience today. This is my son, Colin. Did I get anything wrong? And he kind of chuckled and kind of looked at me, and I said, did you want to come up? So he came up. He put his arm around me. And he said, my mom got almost everything right. There's a lot she doesn't know, and I'm glad she doesn't. But the thing that you need to understand, Mom, and everyone out there, is that intervention that she thought failed, didn't. That morning when I woke up and knew I had 3 choices, a gun, an overdose, or to call for help, it was that intervention that I was so mad at that day that made me call for help, because I remembered the love that was in that circle. That doesn't always work. Some of us have done interventions and we've still lost people. But for Colin, it made an impression. I am a firm believer that if you are sincere and everything you do comes from love and gratitude, good things will come of it. There may be losses along the way, things may not go the way we want, but at 10,000 beds, we say that we come from a place of gratitude. So what Hal and I are doing is because we are so grateful that we have children who are awesome, that my son is alive, and that there are heroes in recovery all around us. The final message that I want to leave with you, that I'm leading in communities all over the United States, is you don't understand. You do. They don't understand what recovery looks like. Recovery isn't the guy sitting on the corner that's jobless. Recovery isn't the guy that you don't want to walk down the alley with. Recovery is the guy next door that's coaching your kid's soccer team that you think is the best thing that ever happened, and you don't know that he's been in recovery for 12 years, for 15 years, for 30 years, for 2 years. You don't know that. But he is, and so is the neighbor next door who brings you cookies every Monday. That's what I want people to understand about recovery. We are 10,000 beds. We are on the road for recovery, and our mission is recovery. That's it. Thank you so much.